that's the big push
Yeah,
to
I
get
know,
the drivers.
I know. Has he talked?
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, happy Wednesday on a Thursday. It's true. Yeah. So last week you had the good fortune of having everyone on the 53 available for the game. Do you have a feel yet as to whether that will be the case, or are there questions with like Elijah Achane, Caleb Johnson, etc.?
Well, the only two that won't be practicing today will be Elijah and Caleb, and we'll take those. We'll take Elijah day to day. Caleb's probably unlikely for this game, and then we'll get some sort of participation with the rest of the crew.
Good. And with what's the approach this week with Devon practicing a little bit on a limited basis to protect the ribs, or what's the thinking?
Oh, so he'll be participating today. He'll have a red jersey on to avoid some contact. He'll go through some of his assignments, and he'll participate, but it'll be limited. And it'll just be a gradual increase in activity and physicality.
And
So
I know we had. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Man,
Yeah, just one last, as we joke around, housekeeping item. I know you mentioned about Andrew Meyer this week, just to make sure, no Jason Sanders this week.
doesn't look like this week.
I saw some cool video clips where the defensive players, after someone makes a play, they all get together and chant the guy's name. I don't know if you've seen that or heard about it, but what's your feeling about the vibe of the team and the players right now?
Yeah, no, I strongly, I positively reinforce that for sure. It's about playing a team game and individuals coming together to have anything that's unique to themselves. I think it was something cool that kind of developed during the season. I can't give credit to who, I wouldn't know that, but yeah, I hear it every game. It shows up in meetings and on the practice field, and anytime that guys want to razz somebody, bringing attention to something random they did. I think there's football is a business in the National Football League, but you are successful if you have the energy and exuberance of your childlike love. So, that group behavior, I think, is very impactful for how guys play together on the field. So it's one of the cool things that they have started in taking ownership of their unique brand of football.
What is the story behind the drum skill being put into the? I mean, is there an epiphany of, you got the notepad by your side at wake up, or you go to a staff meeting where also the idea was just broached, or how did that?
Well, it's where the phrase "adversity is opportunity" comes from. We were down a lot of point of attack blockers that we rely upon, and there was a couple staff members threw some of his Tennessee Titan extra tackle stuff when we're trying to problem solve on on a day after the game. It was I guess the Monday after Cleveland, and we hadn't ever done it, hadn't utilized him, but I knew what type of person I was dealing with. Dan Brunskill is a unique individual. You come across a lot of athletes over the years, and he stands out for the incredible preparation that he's always had. Back when we used to play the Rams twice a year, he would give the report on Aaron Donald to the rest of the offensive line because he was so detailed. And it just so happened there was when we were playing Aaron Donald, you didn't ever single block him. You made a game plan so he was double teamed every play. But there's by chance there was like two times in two games that he had to block him on his own, and he was able to get it done based on preparation and his boldness of how he goes about playing. So that it was more relying on that. Had some tape from him doing it in the past, and then it was the first time this season that we were without Julian Hill, and we were just kind of injured at the time, so he didn't bat an eye, and I think it feels like a decade ago, but we were very excited that Atlanta week because he started the game, and it was his sixth different position in the National Football League that he started an NFL game at. So there's a small pocket of people that could ever say that. If there's anybody else, it's probably one or two. But yeah, it was invention based on necessity, problem solving. That's what you try to do as a football coach, because no one cares about what you don't have.
Like with Devon, I listened to some quotes from former coaches and current coaches, and they all say unassuming, team first guy. I'm curious what giving a guy like that such a large portion of your identity, how do you think that's impacted and changed the team?
Well, I think you are subject to your the personality of your nucleus as a team, and the players that you depend on the most. They better be very, very team focused, team oriented people, or your team's going to suffer. So, I think it's a big deal that we get him the ball a lot, and he's as accountable and on it for assignments and what he has to do on every play as anybody on the team. I think that you don't have to be a loud guy. You can lead by accountability example, and I think he does that, which has residuals. You don't when the guy that's getting 150 yards from scrimmage is doing so by executing all of his assignments with detail, you have to match that in the locker room. I think it's supremely important that he's always been a player with a big vision. So where his game's at now, and kind of he's getting more attention, and he's been ready for that because he's been preparing as though this is not if but when. So I think it's really cool to watch him really come out of. He's more vocal. He's more dynamic, and I think he loves to get into friendly, I guess I'd call it stuff talking, since my daughter's watching, and he motivates all three phases through holding people accountable in a team-oriented way. He's quick to tell Jordan Brooks how he would cover that seam route, or quick to tell Zach Sealer how he would spike into the A gap if he were him. So those types of things I think are residual gains for a football team, and he's in a good spot, and so is the team.
Mike, what do you recall about the period when you guys were trying to put together a secondary and you zeroed in on Rasul Douglas? What would you expect from him, and how's that compared to what you've gotten from him?
I think so much of it was tape driven and skill set driven, and I was very confident in his football play based on watching film. Low key, it was super. I had no idea how much of an impact he could make as a year one player on the team. And I see him as right in there with our nucleus of guys as a driving force and how we're motivated each and every day we come to work. I think he was one of the more vocal players in reestablishing the standard with which we wanted to operate after the Cleveland game, and he just gigantically impactful football player as a value added team guy. I just didn't have any idea about the personality and his I've seen him make plays on the ball and plays in the run game that I think he's playing some of his best ball he's played. I knew he was a ball player. I just didn't know how much he could aid in the team that we're trying to create.
Like a bit of a two-parter game in this stretch. Is that something you said we need to do, or is it something you guys started to do and you said we can ride this now?
No, I mean it's hilarious that's been a work in progress since we've been here, and you change players and you get players that you think that are a supreme fit for what you're trying to do, and then they evolve their game. But the bottom line is if you can run the ball and control the game by possessing the ball and not risking a takeaway, you do it week in, week out. The problem is people try to stop you, and it's also, if you're not running the ball effectively, you can't get 30 runs. There's not enough plays unless you're running it on third down. You want to run the ball for a 1 yard gain and then a 2 yard gain, and then you're at 3rd and 7. You're 2-to-1 ratio run pass, but you're also punting or getting sacked or throwing an interception or all the other risks that are in long yardage third down. So it's always been a work in progress. It's never a finished product, but what you're seeing is talented guys that have really bought in and got really good at what we're asking them to do, and they're working in phase with the ball carrier and then straining through the whistle. These are all things that you emphasize, year-round when you're talking to your football team, but there's a difference in emphasizing it and talking about it and actually executing it. So I think what you're seeing is an accumulation of so many deliberate hours. You don't just all of a sudden wake up and want to, and this is something that guys have worked tirelessly from coaching it to individual. You guys peek at Butch Berry's individual every day, and it's full sweat. Everyone's it's the hardest part of practice, and generally, and it's not like we have easy practices. So I think it's something that you have to earn, and you have to earn week in, week out, and I think when you have success, particularly, a couple weeks in a row, guys enjoy that style of football. But each week it's a new challenge, and generally, it's tough. It's tough to string together, some of the games that we've had, which is why it's been a while since you had 450-yard rushing performances. But in the National Football League, that's difficult because people are working on stopping that, right now. And so your desire and want to succeed at that has to outshine the opponent's desire to stop it. And then you put the pads on and you play the game, and they'll the Pittsburgh Steelers do a great job at creating issues in the run and pass game. There's no doubt they're going to have a plan to stop our run game, and our job will be to execute in spite of that.
What are the trademarks you see in a Mike Tomlin-led team?
20 years of over 500 football play. That's been, the scope of, my career is being able to inspire a group of individuals to come together and win more than they lose. I think that within that, there's a lot of pride in the organization and the team. I think guys play physically every year, regardless of what the nameplates are, and they find a way to play sound football, and they become pretty hard to beat. So I think that's by and large what the last 2 decades have taught us. I expect nothing short of that this game, and we're going to have to put a good work week together to go battle that team and to try to get in the victory column. I know that for sure. I've played them multiple times, and it's always been that same story. You have to go earn a win. It will not be handed to you.
I hate to go back to Sunday, but I'm curious about the decision to lean heavily on Jalen Wright versus Ollie, and does that signal a changing of the guard kind of going forward?
Oh no, I think my best decisions are the ones that are made with my attention in my eyes. And Jalen Wright, it was nothing to do with Ollie. He's been on a heater in practice for the past couple weeks, and he's had I've had in-game moments where some of my most trusted players that aren't him have been motivated enough to tell me, hey, maybe we can get Jalen Wright the ball, based on their recognition of where he's at and how he's been prepared. I think, I've just been watching, and you learn everything about a person, particularly when things don't fall their way. I don't think he expected to have the small amount of ops up until that game that he's had this season. However, he didn't let that affect his controllables. He's been looking like he's really hard to tackle in practice, and so gave him some ops. And I didn't favor to that extreme going into the game. It was more about getting opportunities quickly, and he took full advantage of them. I really liked the way his style of running, and he looked like he was very difficult to tackle, so kept giving him the ball. But what that leads to, that's up to the players, and his if he's, if Ollie's on a heater today and tomorrow, that affects how I approach the game, and I think we're just afforded some guys that we really believe in, and when they show us that they're fully confident and ready to use all of their skill sets for that game and against their opponent, we confidently give them the ball and let them go do what they do. So it's really one of the cooler examples of something I firmly believe in, which is focusing 100% of your time and energy into your controllables. And you can't control your opportunities. You can control if you're ready for your opportunity when your name is called. And that's what Jalen was on Sunday for sure.
I guess a quick follow-up then, just have you had conversations with HN about wearing a flak jacket? Just how do you plan, if he does, play on Monday, how do you guys plan to protect him?
So, I think there's some, he goes through the process of the work week of, deciding the equipment, and, he's surely fitted from Joe on that, but whether he wears that or not will be up to him. His, the good news is his how he makes a living is avoiding tacklers, and that's what he'll have to do. The bumps and bruises in the National Football League, if you don't have something in December, you're probably playing football wrong. So that's something that is second nature to a person that's a professional ball carrier, because everyone is trying to tattoo him on every play. So he'll have to be at the top of his game, which is what we'll be focused on him getting ready for, so that he can be his most prepared and avoid tackles.